Just clicked on go live.
What, we have to do something?
No, ma'am, nothing. I'll just tell you. I think we should be live now. Rajiv, should I?
Checking, sir. I'm checking on it, sir.
I think we should be online now.
We are live, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Today we are meeting once again for our weekly program called Researchers Week. This program is on the Haryana chapter of AIOTA official page. And the intention and objective is basically to disseminate a guest talk, a talk with somebody who has accomplished a master's thesis probably, or a graduate project, or anything that has been a data-driven work for them. So in that series today, we are honored to have Dr. Anurupa Senapati. She is head of the Department of Occupational Therapy Department at SV Nirtar. I remember her fondly as my own teacher, my lecturer, whom I met during my graduation, 1996 to 2000. And it is in fact a thing of great pride that today she has accepted my invitation to be here on this platform. And along with her today, we also have Ritika Gogia, who would present her dissertation with us. So I welcome one more time, ma'am, Dr. Anurupa Senapati. We are very happy to have you, and let's start with your talk on clinical reasoning. Go ahead.
Very good afternoon to all of you. And I'm thankful to Dr. Manish Shamnani and all the Haryana branch committee member for inviting me to deliberate my talk on clinical reasoning. Nowadays, when we talk about occupational therapy and all the budding therapists and the new practitioners, all of them are having a biggest problem, and they're saying that many are intervening our practice area, and our practice area as well as our profession is going down, and we are not getting better recognition. On this issue only, I thought, let me give a talk on clinical to establish the practitioners unique practice or putting a unique service which is apart from any other professionals, rehab professionals.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. Yeah, there was
some problem in connection. Yes. I'm audible?
Yeah, you are audible now, ma'am.
Okay. Based on this only, I thought clinic will definitely identify your unique service what you provide to the people with disability, and definitely identify our role and how we provide the services, which is totally different from any other professionals, rehab professionals. Though all rehab professionals are going to work together, but still we can identify, we can limit ourselves, and we can limit their service to the people. So that's why the clinical reasoning is very, very essential for our practice, because all of us know that as an occupational therapist, we give a humanistic approach to the person with disability. And when we talk on clinical reasoning, it is nothing but a process. It is an occupational therapy practice process. So how you are going to use this clinical in your practice, that is going to identify or recognize your professions. So when you talk on clinical reasoning, it is a whole body practice. It is not individual we focus on. And when there are lots of theories which are intervention of using our strategies. But when we are using the strategies based on this theory, we have to always follow this theory. But underlying this theory, how you are going to observe, how you are going to use your scientific clinical reasoning, which is going to help you not to make any unjustified assumptions, or it is not giving any ineffective clinical technique for the patient. So that's why you should always use a scientific reasoning. And under the scientific reasoning, whatever the theories we are using, that should have our fundamental basis. Based on that, we can scientific reasoning. After scientific reasoning, we always go for our narrative reasoning. And when you are using this narrative reasoning, that is very essential, which an occupational therapist does. If you correlate with other professionals, rehab professionals or any physicians, the narrative reasoning always being done by the occupational therapist. They always try to listen to the patient's story and try to find out that how the disability has affected their performance area. And based on those performance area affected, we try to use a pragmatic reasoning. Based on the pragmatic reasoning, we use both two different contexts, that is practical context as well as the personal context. And it is not that only the theoretical knowledge we take and then we try to give the intervention. So whether it is a pediatric condition, it is an adult conditions, any condition you take into consideration, we always focus on this clinical reasoning. If you try to use this clinical reasoning in your practice, then it is always better to identify and give the information to the client itself that how you are different from other professionals. Maybe other professionals will be using similar type of activities what you are doing, but the way you use, based on what theory you are using, based on what scientific knowledge you are using, that is different. And how that scientific knowledge you are correlating with the person's personal factor, and how you are correlating that with their occupational area, that is very important. And this knowledge also has to be given to the client, so that the client or client's parents, so that they should understand how occupational therapist is different. They should not get a dilemma that what other professionals are doing, the same thing is occupational therapist doing. So that's why clinical reasoning is very, very, very essential. If you come to a nutshell conclusion how the clinical reasoning has to be used, always clinical reasoning is the process that is by practitioners to plan, direct, and perform and reflect on client's care. But it is a whole body and multisensory processing. You cannot take only one particular area or particular impairment or particular component. It has to be correlated with their performance, and then you have to always focus on their performance area. And it is a multifaceted, because occupational therapy always requires an understanding of client's issue from multiple perspectives. It is not that only one perspective. Very often I have found that newcomers, when they handle with the children's, they focus on behavior aspects, or some kind of repetitive behaviors. So instead of behaviors, instead of one particular component or one particular impairment area, if you take into consideration how this is affect the parents' life, how it is affect the child's life, how the child's performance area is being limited because of this impairment, that will give you a proper guidance, that will guide you how to direct your plan. And that will also help the parents to understand how an occupational therapist handle a child based on what different kind of scientific knowledge and the theory which is already established. So the OT practitioners use a logical process which are associated with scientific reasoning, and to understand an individual's impairment and disabilities as well as the performance context, and predict the effect these have on occupational performance. You try to predict, you make a hypothesis within your mind, and based on those hypotheses, you try to take other observations and narrative reasoning and help the practitioners personalize the treatment. It is not a protocol is being there, and this protocol has to be utilized for each and every one. When you make an occupational therapist make a therapy program or intervention, it is a personalized treatment. It is not a monotonous or a protocol which has to be carried out for each and everybody, like the other professionals they do. So it is, when you talk on OT practice, it is totally different than other professions that you have to develop in your practice. And by helping them understand, you also help the person to understand the meaning that occupational performance limitation have for an individual based on what impairment they have, the limitation in their performance. The practitioners use pragmatic reasoning with service delivery, and all of these forms of reasoning leads to an ethical reasoning. And this process in which practitioner must select the best therapeutic intervention to respond to the person's occupational performance need. It is, if you take into all these four reasoning area into your evaluation, into your planning of your intervention, then definitely you will provide a very best selective therapeutic intervention to respond to person's occupational performance needs. So therefore, I can conclude that the clinical reasoning is an interactive and conditional process in which all aspects of clinical reasoning are integrated to resolve both current and future occupational performance issue. It is not that you are trying to only handle today. You are handling the patient today only. If you have seen the patient today, then you have to plan for the future also, that the way you are going to develop, the way you are going to give the intervention to the patient, you are going to develop the skills so that the person should not face any problem in their occupational performance in the future. So that's how the occupational therapist has to work, so that you can develop your recognition, identity in the field of rehabilitation. And you are definitely separate, different, unique than any other professionals. So that's what I just wanted to give information to my all budding therapists and new practitioners to OT area. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anurupa Sanpati ma'am. In fact, clinical reasoning is a very important topic, and sometimes when we read it as a theoretical part or chapter in our post-graduation, we find it as if it is something that is not new. This is something I always do it also. But sometimes we also find, at the end of the day, we also find students talking about how do you apply this clinical reasoning. So application part is a challenge, and as well as, but when you look at the understanding part, it looks very simple and day-to-day kind of a aspect. So I think what you have done is kind of simplified it in such a way that it can definitely be looked at it from an angle of application part as well. So really thankful to you, ma'am, once again for being a part of this platform and giving us some valuable time out of your Sunday, which is more for your personal self and family self. But really grateful to you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you.
So Rajiv might tell you if there's any question, maybe not now, maybe after Ritika's talk, if there's any question, by the way, from the participants, from viewers, or maybe, sometimes there are questions or comments only later on. I have seen that in the FB Live program, usually people watch it later because the program is very much present on the Facebook throughout the time that it is there. So usually people keep putting some comments or anything only later. So having said that, ma'am, thank you one more time. And I would ask Rajiv to take over and invite Ritika, introduce her, and maybe we can start with the other talk.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation. And I would like to introduce our next speaker, Ritika. She has done her bachelor's from IPH and post-graduation from Jamia in pediatrics. She has whatever presentation she is going to present. It has already been published in the iJot in the year 2018. Um, Also, she has a specialization in dealing with kids having autism and has a lot of experience working in pediatrics. So I hand over the platform to Ritika now to go ahead with her topic.
Thank you so much. So I'll start with my slides which I've prepared for the presentation. I hope it's visible.
Yes, visible.
Okay. The topic of my today's presentation is to study the effectiveness of occupation therapy intervention in overweight and obese children and its impact upon quality of life. It was done under the guidance of Rashida Begum ma'am, and this article was published in Indian Journal of Occupation Therapy in year 2018. So to start with, childhood obesity, as it is one of the most current issues of the health education today and possesses long-term and short-term effects on the health and the wellness. It is associated with the reduction in the quality of life of such children and a greater risk of teasing, bullying, and social isolation, thus creating a psychological difficulties like negative self body image, low self-esteem, low self-worth, confidence, depression, social isolation, and many such things, leading to a stigma of being an obese. So, from an occupation perspective, meaningful engagement and active participation in childhood occupation that are play and socialization, which we commonly say and term as, they are significantly diminished, in turn undermining the child's physical, social, emotional, mental health. That is, means its overall health is getting hampered in some way or the other. So here is the area, this is the area which we really wanted to intervene and we really wanted to explore further of how being an occupation therapist can use this profession or use skills to help such children. So as we all know, occupation therapists has a vital role in promoting health, well-being, and the quality of life for the children. And through the education and strategies and intervention planning, the OT can help them to build habits which can promote the health. So from the occupation therapy point of view, social participation is one of the most important occupation of the child. I mean, the half of the child's occupation, what we say, it's a play, it's being socialization, it's a academic performance, and I think we should it should be targeted in a non-judgmental, supportive, encouraging environment which are essential to let them explore. So a variety of researches were done all over the countries, and many researchers have done the comparative studies of how the children with obesity having a lower quality of life compared to the healthy ones. And many researchers have also highlighted how it impacts their social performance and even the emotional part. Michael APZ in 2016 presented a paper in which he highlighted how occupation therapy can prevent and promote the health and making significant, differences in such lives of such children. Assessment and intervention in occupation therapy are imperative for the profession to make a significant and sustainable differences in lives of such children. Mariam et al. In 2015 conducted an 11-year period research in the school to study the effectiveness of such program. So in the past, researchers have studied the impact of quality of life and self-esteem, but separately. Thus, the need was felt to study the role of an occupation therapy intervention on the quality of life. So I've used two skills in this, which I'll be discussing further. and an OT intervention program, which I have used during this research. Let's go further with the aims and objective to examine the different areas of functioning affected due to the obesity, to find which domain is affected the most in the health-related quality of life in children, to evaluate the effectiveness of occupational therapy intervention in children with obesity in school setting. So experimental hypothesis was that occupational therapy intervention improves the quality of life of children with overweight and obesity, and null hypothesis was occupational therapy intervention have no effect on the quality of life with such children. Methodology. The research design was the pre-test and the post-test experimental study. The method of sampling was convenient. A sample size of 30 subjects were included in the study based on the inclusion and the exclusion criteria, which consist of both the boys and the girls. So the inclusion criteria for the research was 11 to 17 school-going children, and the children with the BMI, that is the body mass index, having more than 25 kg per meter square. Exclusion criteria was kept during the study was child having any cardiovascular, neurological, or musculoskeletal problem, child having weight gain issues due to side effects of some ongoing medication, and any other metabolic or systematic disease the child, if the child is suffering from. There was also a withdrawal criteria during the study in which the child developing any cardiovascular or any musculoskeletal problem during the intervention, they can withdraw from the study, but none of them did that. So the variables, the dependent variable was the BMI. PEDS QL, that is the Pediatric Quality of Life Questionnaire, which I have used in this, and the Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale. The independent variable was the occupational therapy intervention. So being in research, I had to use these assessment tools to assess how, to get the scores on the paper. So I've used this Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale to assess and to have an idea of what the children feel about themselves. So Rosenberg Self-Esteem is a 10-item scale that measures the self-worth of the children by both positive and the negative feelings about themselves. It takes 10 to 15 minutes to administer the test. All items are answered using a 4-point Likert scale, ranging from strongly agree to disagree. So the few questions were scored in a serial way, like strongly agree for 3, agree for 2, disagree for 1, and strongly disagree for 0. And the different questions were, in the different questions, the scoring was reversed. That means strongly agree was 0, agree for 1, D for 2, and so on. The grand total was calculated. So the higher the score results, the higher the self-esteem. That means score from 25 to 30 indicates the higher self-esteem. 15 to 25, average self-esteem. 0 to 15 for the low. The second scale which we used in this study was the Pediatric Quality of Life. That is a brief measure of health-related quality of life in children and young people. So this takes 15-20 minutes to administer, and it has 23 items in the pediatrics quality of life questionnaire. Has 4 components, that is physical, emotional, social, and school functioning. So each have a different items. Physical has 8, emotional has 5, social has 5, school has 5. So the items are reverse scored and linearly transformed to a 0 to 100 scale. Like 0 is scored as 100, 1 for 75, 2 for 50, 3 for 25, 4 for 0. The total sum of all the items over the number are answered on the scale, and higher the score indicates the better health-related quality of life. So this is just an overview how the scale looked like. Okay, so the instruments which were used during the study was the weighing machine and the height meter to measure the weight and height of the subject. Procedure During the research the permission was taken from the school, that is from the Bharati Vidya Bhavan, and ethical approval was taken from the university to conduct the study. Consent forms were duly signed by the parents and the guardians of the children. The subjects were selected on the basis of the inclusion and exclusion criteria, which I earlier mentioned. Each subject was then evaluated for the weight and the height, and the BMI was calculated. So the subjects with BMI exceeding 25 kg per meter square were taken for the study. Each individual was given to fill the pediatrics quality of life and Rosenberg self-esteem scale. Subjects were taken for 45 means 5 days a week of occupation therapy intervention, which includes lifestyle modification, counseling, and so on. In the next slide, I'll be sharing what the intervention looked like. So after the intervention, the post-administration of the scale was done. So this is just an overview of how the intervention looked like, how it has components like behavioral therapy, like self-monitoring, stimulus control, slower eating, goal setting, relaxed breathing, social skill training, in which there was a group therapy sessions to interact, to make the interactions, to have the leadership role within the classrooms. Health and physical activity program was introduced, and there was a self-instruction module which I have created in the guidance of Rashida ma'am, and which highlighted the education program, activity scheduling, and positive parenting. So this is just a front page of the module which I have created. So it was a very educational module and a takeaway for the children to, that they can have a takeaway of what they participated in the 1 month intervention, and this is what they have a takeaway of, with all the knowledge and what they learned, and some positive feedbacks from themselves as also. So these are the few pictures which clearly shows how the weight and the height are being measured, and how the interaction and addressing the children on such issue. Result and discussion. The study used a pre and post experimental design. The data were analyzed statistically, packaged for the social sciences, that is SPSS for Windows. It was tested with the parametric paired sample t-test to determine any significant differences in the variables like BMI, pediatrics quality of life scale, and the Rosenberg self-esteem scale. The statistical analysis p-value less than 0.05 was accepted as significant. So this is a graph which shows the distribution of the subjects according to the age. So we can clearly see how there's a distribution of 11 to 13 years group and 14 to 17 years group. This clearly shows that 14 to 17 year groups were more compared to 11 to 13 years. And the number of girls, that is, there were 57% of the total girls and the 43% of the boys. So next is the comparison between the pre-test and the post-test of the physical function, which was a component or a domain of a pediatric quality of life questionnaire. And there was significant difference between the pre and post value, which shows a better physical functioning. And the similar findings were supported by other researchers as well, such like PUCGC Greg et al., which reported encouraging physical activity in such children will be effective in promoting physical functioning. And these similar findings are also supported by various other researchers like Mark E. Lemstra, Riazi et al. In 2010. This is the domain of emotional function, which shows again a significant increase in the value from the pre-test to the post-test, and the researchers are being supported by the Richard S. Strauss in 2000 and Michael A. Pizzi et al. In 2016. So this is the comparison between the pre and post social function, and again we can see how significant improvement was seen in this, and the similar findings were reported by the other researchers, like Martin et al. Concluded that the multi-component intervention targeting physical and healthy diet could benefit general school achievement, and researchers like James W. Paris et al. In 2011 revealed the similar findings. This shows the pre and post school function of how the after the post intervention, and we could see the significant improvement in such areas. And similar findings were again received from the various other researchers like Cynthia Lau in 2013. This is the self-esteem comparison between pre and post, and there were significant improvements in the pre and post values. And other researchers also support this, that Cornett in 2016 mentioned how emotional affects the being in such children's self-esteem and self-concept. Richard S. Strauss in 2000 conducted a study to examine the social and emotional effects and on decreased self-esteem in such children. So discussion. The study investigated to see the effectiveness of the OT intervention, including the lifestyle modification, social skill training, self-instruction module, behavior therapy on overweight and obese children and its impact on quality of life. On analysis, there were marked and significant movements in the pre and post-intervention scores, highlighting the immense progress in the quality of life and the self-esteem. In the present study, there was again significant improvement, and similar findings were also reported by researchers like Colleen Willoughby et al., who reported that the self-esteem of such children can be increased with the occupation therapy program. So the various domains of the PEACE-QOL, which included physical, social, emotional, and the school functioning, again, togetherly shows the significant improvement in the numbers. And the similar findings were from the PUC-GC Red et al., who reported that encouraging physical activity in such children will be effective in promoting the physical functioning. And same in terms of the social participation in behavior therapy or, yeah. So the program was effective at school, because that is why I think the school was one of the best decisions that we took rather than being into a community, because again, the researchers also support this statement by saying that school appears to be an ideal setting for the children, and it could be a good place to start with in terms of the prevention and in terms of the intervention, to give the opportunities for promoting physical health and nutrition education through a practice and supportive environment. So the areas of functioning affected were the physical, social, emotional, and the school. Sorry, yeah. So out of the 4 domains, social and the emotional domain were the most affected in such children. Conclusion: the experimental hypothesis of the study was accepted and null was rejected. The finding of the study revealed that the occupation therapy intervention improved the self-esteem and the quality of life in such children. So being a research, and there was a limitation of the research, and the limitations were the sample size was very small. The time duration of the study was again short. The follow-up after the 2 to 3 months of the intervention could not be obtained, and there was absence of a control group. So for the future recommendations, we came to such points that a larger sample size should be studied to generalize the results, and examining the effects of occupation therapy intervention for a longer, for like minimum for 6 months or a year, and comparing the use of occupation therapy intervention with a control group comprising of either a diet or just a lifestyle modification. Children below 11 years of age can also be taken in the study. So these are the references which I have used during the research. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ritika, for your presentation. It was quite precise and appropriate to the point of as displayed by you and the topic. Anupam ma'am, I would like to request if you have any questions or if you would like to have any close-up statement or you want to share any last-minute thoughts with our viewers, we will be happy to know, discuss about it or know your thoughts.
Yeah, this type of studies is really Ritika has done very good, and nowadays this obese children are many more in the school because of their food habits as well as lack of physical activities. And what Ritika emphasized that their social skills or social participation is definitely affected because of their body image. Because even in the normal development, if you see, the body image has a very good impact on their physics as well on their performance in the school. So definitely obese has to be taken into consideration, and many times parents do not bother for this. Even the children do not bother, but when they come into an adolescence period, it is definitely a problem for them. Many children, as she has already mentioned, that many children will have a better educational performance, and because of this obesity, they are having problems in concentrations. Even they are deteriorating in their physical, in their educational performance. So it's a very good research that she has done, and only thing it has to be emphasized in the school that if the school personnel are going to accept this and they can put it as a like a period where everybody has to participate in this program. Those who are obese, it is up to the people, but not hard and fast. But there should be, like, we put a recess period interval, like that they can put a period in which these people, if they're interested, they should be motivated and they should participate. If they participate, it is well and good. And if it can be done, it's nothing like that. I mean, it will definitely give a very good impact on the children's. And by looking those schools, other schools also might be enthusiastic to use it. And ultimately, the credit will go to OT professions. So it's a very nice studies and very effective.
Very, very nicely put up, ma'am. Thank you for your views and your comments about it. And I would like to add in, since we are in the pandemic times, if you can circulate this kind of information virtually, kids are homebound and they're not very much engaged in the physical activities these days. So such kind of research would really help the parents and the kids maintain a healthy lifestyle during the pandemic times also.
Yes.
Right. Again, ma'am, from all the members of Haryana Chapter IOTA, I would like to send our regards, and we would like to thank you for taking out time from your busy schedule and giving our platform your presence and your piece of information, which was quite enlightening for us and for our viewers. Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you, Ritika, for your presentation also. I know it is very difficult to take out time on a Sunday for such events, but thank you, ma'am and Ritika, for it. And like sir said, ma'am, we keep since it's a weekend, viewers see it in the coming week and they give us their comments. The whole event is there on the Facebook page. You can go there and view it yourself. We will also share the link with you to go over the event about this and the previous events as well. And yeah, ma'am. So we can call it a day, and we can wrap it up, ma'am, now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, ma'am and Ritika.
Thank you so much.